to the Whitetail Advantage Podcast with your host, Brent Oven. Thank you for tuning in and enjoy the show.
Did that video come through, Sean?
It kind of hesitated.
It did? Well,
Yeah.
not gonna lie. This is episode 48, but real quick. Right now, here in Southwest Michigan, we're kind of like in a huge thunderstorm, so apologize on if there's any glitching parts of the show. But, like I said, this is episode 48. I'm your host, Brett Bowman, along with my other host, Sean Holmes. Hi, Sean.
Hi.
You want to say, there we go. They say hi to people, man. Hi.
It's so wonderful being back.
It is. Man.
Been out for a while. I can say this. I was not hunting.
No, but I know what you've been up to, and I can't wait for the, you know what? Let's put a pin in that. Let's save it for when that day actually comes.
Yep, let's do it.
But
I'm kind of excited, dude, about this guy coming on. I'm really excited to hear what he's got to say.
Same here. Now we're finally in Indiana. Real quick, this was episode 48 was supposed to be last Thursday with our guest Angelo, but due to a family emergency, I'm going to cancel the show. And I talked to Angelo. He was very understanding about it, and he's going to be on this Thursday show, which is going to be April 4th. Yeah, Thursday, April 4th. He'll be on that show. So I'm looking forward to it, but that is down the road. Tonight is tonight. We are officially in Indiana talking with Dwayne. So I'm going to pop him in with a good round of applause, and let's get it going.
I don't know if I was deserving of all that, but I appreciate it.
Deserving of it.
Oh, yeah. It's good stuff. What's going on, fellas?
Dwayne, we appreciate you coming on the Whitetail Advantage. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell the audience.
Of course. Thanks for having me. Dwayne Jones. I live in north central Indiana. Kind of got my fingers in a lot of pies. So work-wise, full-time, I'm the sales manager for Novix Tree Stands and Half Rack Products. I'm the community manager for a company and a brand called Shed Season. And then also had just started a habitat improvement company. So got lots of stuff going on. Married, have a son and a daughter, 12 and 10. So it's pretty well wide open around here.
Busy guy.
Yep, absolutely.
I let hands in the cookie jar a lot, huh?
Yep. Wouldn't have it any other way.
Tell us a little bit about your company.
Yeah, so about a year ago, one of my best friends co-owned Shed Season with. He, for a number of years, has kind of pushed me to take the leap and start Dream Dirt because of my passion for it. So we've been planting food plots and doing habitat stuff for probably close to 2 decades now. And I love it. I told my wife this weekend, we had the mini excavator here and I was digging water holes and working on frost eating clover and stuff like that. And I came up and honestly, there's nothing in the world I would rather do than that stuff. I absolutely love it. And with that being said, he's pushed me to try and do it, make a run at it. So, bought the LLC and bought a domain about a year ago. And just because, like I said, with my full-time job and stuff, haven't put the time towards it that I should have. But going into this spring, I finally started doing some projects, and it's taken me to a few pretty neat places. But yeah, just consulting on farms and doing improvements as we see fit.
So with you consulting on farms and doing the food plot, what are you looking specifically on these farms to do the proper plotting?
Obviously, every property is different. I went down to Tennessee here a few weeks ago and looked at a farm and helped basically lay out a farm there. And what I would do there is very different from here because you drive around there and for miles around, there's no food. It's not, if it's open, it's cattle pasture and that's it. So it's not going to take a lot to draw deer and turkeys in. We opened up a couple of areas and started with some clover plots, and we'll get those, going and dialed in, and then add some grain, and he'll pull deer from everywhere. But here in north central Indiana, everything's ag and a little different approach to it. Sometimes it's not about the food. Sometimes they have the food and it's about the cover. So all depends on the farm.
Now, do you map it out, check it out, put cameras up, figure out before you even decide what food you want to put out, where to put it out, and all that?
Yeah, I definitely always go and walk the farm with the landowner first. Try to get a good idea of what's there, what I would change, what I do different, or maybe they have something going already we like, but and then we'll go and drive around a couple of miles and just kind of see what's around, what's going to be the lowest hole in the bucket. And, typically I'll map out a plan, draw up a plan, and give details on what I suggest. And then from there, it's up to them what we do.
Okay.
I have a real quick question.
Yeah.
How long is that planning process from first meeting him to going to all right, this is when we're finally implementing? How long is that process like?
For me, it's different than somebody that does it full time because I'm not taking on, hundreds of people. It's been a few here and there. So, it's not long. This last one I did about an hour and a half north of me here, probably not far from you, Brett. I went up there, walked the farm, and 3 days later had a mapped out plan and a detailed sheet and all that stuff sent to them and ready to go. So usually within a couple of weeks for sure.
Okay. Now, how far of an area do you cover?
Ideally,
I know you're just starting out, but
yeah, ideally, the northern half of Indiana, maybe a little bit of Michigan, a little bit of Ohio, within 4 hours or so, I would say. I don't really want to get into, at this point, like me by myself, to going 8-10 hours away just because of the resources it would take to get equipment that far and stuff like that. But, I don't know. It's kind of like right now we're just letting it grow organically, going where there's opportunity, and we'll see what happens with it.
So 4 hours is like your limit. So I'm kind of well within
Pretty
that.
close.
And you could possibly come up here and check my land out.
Absolutely.
Heck, he can come to my land. I'm even less.
Yeah, that's right.
Can always.
Hey, will you cover 600 acres?
Yeah, we'll make it happen.
So, hey, while you're doing your plotting of your food, is there a certain brand that you stick with, or do you kind of just kind of wean in a little bit, or you know what I mean?
There is, yeah. So probably going back close to 10 years ago, we, like I said, we've done food plots for a long time. I've planted you name the brand that's in the box stores, and we've tried it. Probably about 10 years ago, we started working with Big Time and using a lot of their seed mixes and stuff. And honestly, like to begin with, it's just what I found that worked the most consistently. And we developed a relationship with the marketing director there, and I've worked with them ever since. So anything that they make, like as far as what I want to plant, if they make anything close to what I want to plant, I'm using Big Time every time. So far, they haven't gotten into like the natives, like switchgrass and miscanthus and stuff like that. So when it comes to that kind of stuff, I'll use somebody different only because they don't offer it. But as far as brassicas and clover and stuff like that, we use Big Time. Yeah.
So out of everybody else, all those foods, like you were saying, depends on the food, and you use Big Time. Why is Big Time so much better for you? Is it the ingredients? Is it all natural, or?
I think a lot of it's quality wise. Like, you learn to start looking at the seed tags on the back of the bags and stuff. And, you look at a lot of those and like one of the things that's going to list on there is inert matter, which is basically junk. It's coatings. It's not seed. And when you're buying a bag of seed that, you're paying $40 for, and it says 70% inert matter, you're paying for 70% of it is garbage. Only 30% of the bag's seed. So looking at some of that. And then, like I said, just quality wise, they're in Southern Indiana here. So a lot of it's close. Like I said, it just starting out, that's what we bought, and that's what we found that worked the most consistently. And so we had reached out and started working with them, and ever since then, that's our go-to.
So I got a question I seen on your Instagram. I'm going to ask it. What is happy hour with Big Time?
Happy hour is actually a mineral that they make.
Okay.
So they have a happy hour that's a granular and a liquid. And this time of year, bucks have just shed out. Fawns or does are getting ready to have fawns here for the next couple of months, and so we typically try to get a mineral program going. And happy hour is one of. It's actually like, if you really look into mineral, a lot of it isn't that attractive. Like you could go buy a mineral block from TSC, and deer will occasionally hit it, but they're typically not gonna like seek it out and go to it every day, a couple times a day. But happy hour has some additives in it that makes it more attractive to get them started on using it routinely. Long story short. Yeah.
Brett, do you have a question?
Yeah, that inert matter. So basically, if you read that on the ingredients, it's basically just dirt.
It is junk. Yeah, it's loose seed coatings, it's dirt, it's dust, it's something other than seed.
So it's a big waste of freaking time, almost.
That's exactly what it is. It's junk. Yep, 100%.
So no more buying at Walmart, Brett.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, I would definitely suggest, regardless of what seed brand you use or go to, when you go to buy a bag of seed, look at that. On the back, it's going to give a list of ingredients, and at the bottom of it, typically it'll say inert matter, and if that's higher than 1% or 2%, you're buying you're wasting a lot of money.
So with all this big achievements that you're doing in your business, your full-time job, how do you find the time to go hunting and spending time with family?
Man, it's all about what's priority, right? I mean, at the end of the day, it's not finding the time, it's making the time, just being honest. Like, it's enough of a priority to me, and I'm passionate enough about it that we just make time for it. I've had to be more selective about it. When we were 20 years old and we didn't have kids, you just went all the time. Can't do that, number one, pressure wise, but two, like, my wife and I bought a farm here a couple of years ago, and we own 83 acres, and my dad has 40 that connects to us. And you can't hunt a farm that small, that hard, and continue to be successful. So it's about waiting until the time's right and waiting until conditions are ideal to where, every time I hunt, I have pretty high faith that I'm going to go out there and have an encounter, possibly, have an encounter with one of the shooters. So that's how, like I said.
Okay.
When conditions are right, I'm going.
So with all your experience, being young, getting into hunting, how do I say this? Where did your passion start to get into hunting, the love of hunting?
I don't know. Like, I didn't really have my dad didn't hunt, didn't really have family that hunt. Actually, Ross. And parents went through a divorce when I was 12 or 13 years old. And because we weren't able to ride like I was before, I was going to end up getting hurt. We did it at a high level, and I was trying to do it at a high level without practicing. And so Dad more or less made me hang that up. And I'd always liked the outdoors. I think there was always a passion there. I just didn't have anybody to, help me express it. But this time I'm 13 and start tinkering in it a little bit. My dad he owns a heating and cooling business. And how it started is he did a job at our local archery shop there. And I remember going with them. They were putting a new heating system in this building. And, like, I was just mesmerized by these dudes in there. They're shooting paper. And somehow from that ended up buying I remember to this day, a High Country Outlaw. So a youth High Country bow. If you guys remember the brand High Country.
Oh, man, I haven't heard that name in a long time.
Yep. And that's kind of where it all started. Like, instantly fell in love with it. And I definitely am, I guess, a little ADHD probably, and have an addictive personality. And so, I start shooting, and that's all I can think about, and that's all I want to do. And from there, like I said, I was about 13 years old. So I'm 36 now, and that's pretty much been it for me.
I did notice, though, on your Instagram, you're using that dialed archery site.
I am, yeah. Actually,
to me, that's relatively new, in my opinion. It's like 2-3 years old now, brand-wise.
Yep.
What is it about that you like that site? Because I've heard, like, how it's kind of angled. I've heard some of the science behind it. Can you break that kind of down and why you like it?
I'll do my best. I'll give you the dumb version. So I've shot a single pin for a number of years. My best friend is one of the engineers that helped design Dialed, still works with them all the time. He also helps us engineer Novik stands. He's the one that pushed me to start Dream Dirt. So Dialed, I was seeing a lot of going into it, and just a number of things. Number one, it's very simple. If you take the Dialed Arxos and compare it to any other single pin on the market, it's crazy simple. Like, there's just not all the screws to loosen. There's not all the moving parts. Obviously, there's a slider, and there's a degree of angle that brings the pin closer to you as the yardage gets farther. But aside from that, it's bulletproof. It's simple. I absolutely love it. And the aesthetic of it. they look pretty slick. So year one, as soon as they came out with them, I got one and have shot it ever since, and that's what I'll continue to shoot. They're awesome.
So basically, as the distance goes out farther, that pin is coming closer to you.
Correct. Yep.
So obviously that makes it easier on your eye then.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yep, that's exactly right. So it makes
how
a big
long have you been
difference.
shooting that now?
Probably definitely 2 years, a little over 2 years, I think, because I got the one I have now. I got when I first got my Phase 4 when they came out. So somewhere in the neighborhood of 2 years.
Do you like bow hunting more than gun hunting, or do you like them both?
Yeah, so the buck that I killed this year, I did shoot with a gun, and this year was the first year I've gun hunted in probably 5, 6, 7 years, something like that. But I love bow hunting. Almost exclusively bow hunt.
There we go. That's what I'm talking about.
Yep. So actually, the year before last, I killed my deer opening day of firearm season here in Indiana with my bow. And normally would bow hunt all through season. It's a funny story how I ended up shooting this deer. We had 3 years of history with the first deer I killed on my home farm, and shot him with a gun. And there was no, I was still super pumped about it, but there's something special about bow hunting for sure.
You want to dive into that story?
Yeah, happy to. So as I said, my wife and I had lived in North Carolina for 3 years. We moved there in 2017 for my work. My work took us there. Lived there for 3 years, and it was a fun time, but I got to the point where I was pretty depressed, super homesick. All my family and all my friends were here 12 hours away. And like in the way of hunting, obviously the culture and the ways of hunting in the Carolinas are very different than the Midwest. Not that there's anything wrong with it. It's just a different style. There's guys run deer with dogs down there, and it's the rifle scene is much bigger, and hunting over corn and all that. Like just different. Again, like no issue with it at all, just different. So I missed it a ton. And when we moved home, we decided not to jump into buying anything right away. I knew I wanted to look for ground. It'd been both of our goals basically our whole life. And long story short, we found this piece of property. I never thought in a million years I'd own 80 acres, to be honest. But it was one of those meant to be things. It was definitely, a God thing. And we ended up with it. And for the first 2.5-3 years we owned it, we did all the habitat stuff. We went in and put food where we needed to put food, and did timber stand improvement, and got switchgrass established and all that stuff, but didn't hunt it at all. The guy that owned it before me is a retired doctor. He's in his 80s, and he's one of those guys that wants to be friends with everybody. And so he let anybody and everybody hunt here. In fact, there's a sheriff's deputy that's my neighbor, and he said used to opening day of firearm season, he would get up and there would be a line of trucks down my driveway. Might be 6, 7, 8 trucks deep, and this is 80 acres. And there would be headlamps going every direction. So when we first bought this and started running cameras, the oldest buck I had here was 2. There was very few deer. And like I said, so started putting the food to them, kept the pressure completely off. And right away, one of the first deer we got, spring. So we bought it in January. And like summer that first year, we had this 3-year-old show up. My son named him Blade. And he was, had a 4-point side and a spike, and that was it. Like, never going to be anything probably. So didn't hunt. Next year he shows back up as a 4-year-old. We found his match set at 3 years old of sheds. At 4 years old, he got a lot bigger, but he still had the goofy side. He had like a 7 or 8 inch brow tine, and his main beam went up and just crab clawed, and that was it. But still, like he was one of those deer I only saw this deer 3 times ever in person. Didn't see him much. And he would also, as a 4-year-old, he left my farm in October and didn't come back until the day after Thanksgiving. So very into November. So going into this season, we had 2 5-year-olds, both of which we had 3 years of history with, had sheds too and all that. And then I actually had probably was a mid-70s 4-year-old, also had 3 years of history with. We had him at 2, 3, and 4. And the 4-year-old really was the deer I was targeting, even though we'd love to see him get to 5. Like, I've never even got to hunt a deer that was 170. And he was here, like homebody. He was here all the time. I had several encounters with him. Opening weekend of firearm season came, and I got pictures of him in one of my clover plots in the woods. And he had a bunch of tissue hanging off his neck. And I got him I think 3 days in a row in that plot by himself, and then he disappeared and was gone. And so, like, still to this day, I know he's dead somewhere. I would never go more than a week without getting pictures of him, and he's been gone since November, so he's dead somewhere. Somebody got him, but like clockwork this year. So Blade this year was 5. Similar frame, but he just looks huge because of the way his frame lays. He was 23.5 inches wide. Big, just stud 5-year-old. So had him all summer up until the first week of October. He left. Luckily this year though, I had a friend hunting a mile north of me, a little over a mile, and he was getting him up there all through October and November. And then I'd looked as we started getting close to the end of November, I'd looked back, and it was the 29th that I got pictures of him again. And no lie, this year on the 29th, he showed back up on my farm. So I got him. I was getting him morning and night for a couple of days there. And on the 30th, my wife had ordered a car in June, and it finally came in. And we went in to sign papers for it. It was 1:00 in the afternoon on the 30th of November, and we're sitting there. The lady, the girl that owns this dealership, I'm good friends with. Her family is a big hunting family, and sitting there signing papers. And I look over. I keep seeing my phone light up, and I finally grab my phone and look, and it says covert, and it's on my food plot. And I pull it up. I'm like, oh my gosh! And she said, what? And I'm like, my 5-year-old is standing in my food plot right now. And she kind of laughed, and she's like, do you need to go? And I'm like, yeah. And she's like, wait, are you serious? And I'm like, I'm dead serious. I got to go. And I'm like, but my truck's getting serviced, so you got to give me something to drive. And she starts laughing, and she throws me these keys and says, go get in the red Colorado. So I literally rip home. I live about 10 minutes from the dealership. Rip home. I'm wearing joggers and a hoodie. I come in, and my son had hunted a little bit. So his youth 243 was right inside the garage. And I just grabbed it. I took off, sprinted back here. And so we have a redneck back here on my big food plot, and it's laid out in a way where you take the creek ditches to get to it. Like, it's pretty bulletproof access. And by the time I get into the redneck, he's in the plot right in front of me. Like, and there's borderline. Borderline is an annual that Big Time makes that's screening. So it's 12 feet tall. Can't see through it. So by the time I get into the redneck, it's wide open. And I literally sprint back there. Get there, and I'm winded as heck. I get up in the redneck, and I look, and he's out there like 100 yards broadside to me. And I'm like, oh my gosh, no way. So I get all set up and everything, and of course I'm all over the place because I just sprinted a mile. So I make myself calm down. Anyway, I end up ripping this. I shoot him and absolutely smoked him. Heart shot him at 100 yards, and it was one of those things. Like I said, I haven't gun hunted for a long time. But, my dad is on all my cell cameras here. He knows this deer, and he kind of was a special place in his heart. My son had named him. And so it was a big deal, big deal. The first deer off the home farm, first mature deer here. And so TJ, the engineer that helped design Dialed and, shed season I do all the stuff with, he went and pulled my son out of school and drove out here and called Dad, and they came. And it was just, the rest of the day was a huge celebration, but just so cool, man. Well, that was a long story, but it was awesome.
No, that's a great story for the lifetime, and that's one that you're probably going to remember for forever.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No doubt about it. It was special.
You shot him at 100 yards?
Yeah, 100 yards. Sure did. Heart shot him. Absolutely smoked him. Yep.
What I'm more shocked about is his wife allowed him to leave.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, like I said,
if I go to fire calls, my wife is like, "Okay, bye." Yeah.
Right. Yeah. No, she knew. It gets serious around here in November.
So, how big are you hunting with you? Like, how big are they into hunting?
That's something I don't know if there is a right way. I guess I don't know that I've handled it right or wrong or whatever, but it's kind of like I've just let them come to me with it. I took them when they were young, and they had experiences and opportunities and stuff. And like my son is 12, and up until the last couple of years, it just really wasn't his thing. But we tried for a couple. So turkeys have become the kids' thing for sure. We tried for a couple of years to get him on one, and had a lot of mishaps. And last year he finally got a chance and shot one, and we had an incredible hunt. It was special. We both got emotional over it, and super cool. And then same thing this year. My daughter's 10, and we have 2 reservoir properties that are state properties here, and you have to get drawn to hunt them. And they're both lousy with turkeys. And but youth wise, the kids are almost guaranteed to get drawn. It's a matter of how many applicants they have as far as, do they get Saturday, do they get Sunday, or do they maybe get both, if there's not a ton of kids. So they're both, my daughter and I went the morning before last and listened and got in on 6 or 7 toms gobbling. And so they're crazy about the turkeys. Still to this day, the deer stuff, they could kind of take or leave it, and I don't, again, like I'm not going to force it, because I think if I do, they're going to, they're going to rebel probably and not want to do it. And so when they want to go, we go. And if they don't, that's cool too.
So does your wife hunt with you?
She is a freak about turkey hunting too. Has no desire to deer hunt at all.
Bragging rights right there.
Oh yeah, there's no doubt about it. Yep. 100%.
Who's cleaning the dish? I bet y'all get a bigger buck than you.
That's right. That's right. Exactly. We have a lot of fun with it. The spring is a fun time, man. Like I get between the habitat stuff and turkey season, get pretty wound up.
Okay. So do you prefer private land or public land, or do you like to just kind of go mix in both?
No, I definitely, there's no bones about it. I strictly hunt private land. I mean, yep. There's, like I said, there's 2 reservoirs here. And there's some really big deer killed here, but like, at least at the stage that I'm in right now, again, like going back to the habitat stuff, I enjoy, getting a farm to where we've gotten this farm as much as I do the hunting part of it itself. And you just can't really do that on public ground. So to me, it's a lot more about 3 years ago, I might get pictures of 5 different deer here. And now this past year, there were times where we'd see 25, 30 deer and 6 or 8 bucks over 130. And, it took a lot of work to get there, but there's a lot of pride that comes with that, I guess. And, I love that as much as any of it.
Okay. So is there one place, if you could win the draw, win $1 million, whatever, where's the one place you would love to go hunt?
Oh man.
Everybody's got that one.
Yeah. If it were me, probably this, I don't know what either one of you think about this. I've never elk hunted before ever, but probably like Utah archery elk would be my thing. That's what I'd want to do for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
I hear it's hard to win a draw out there.
What's that?
I hear it's hard to win a draw out there.
Yeah, I know.
It's very hard.
Yeah, I know there's units there that are probably like once or twice a lifetime.
Yeah.
So for our listeners, what advice could you give them? You explained that your family wasn't big on hunting and you just kind of fell into it. What can you give to our listeners that are possibly brand new, never hunted, just getting into it? What advice you would give them to, like, this is what you need to do, this is what I would recommend?
Yeah. This is, I guess I may have a different perspective than some people, but like thinking about me coming up, I tell my wife and buddies all the time, it's a miracle that I fell in love with hunting, because I grew up for probably the first 10 years I hunted. I only hunted, my grandpa owned 40 acres. That was terrible. It was not good at all. And, I didn't know any different. I didn't go out and try to get permission anywhere else because I had my spot. I had my grandpa's 40 acres. But there were times I would hunt, 10 times in a season and see deer 1 of the 10, like no joke, like see a deer 1 of the 10. And at 13, 14 years old, nowadays, almost 0% chance that kid is going to want to hunt. I mean, if you go and, it's one thing if you don't get an opportunity, but to not even see anything, it'd be pretty tough. Like, just me thinking about my kids, even to get them engaged and want to do it. My advice would be try to find a good place to hunt. Whether it's knocking on doors or if the only thing you have is public ground, try to find somebody that's willing to teach you and show you the ropes a little bit, and don't be afraid to go where other people aren't. And for me, I wish when I was younger I had tried to get permission somewhere other than Grandpa's 40 acres, because I probably would have had a lot more success. And obviously I still fell in love with it, but would have been a lot more enjoyable years there for 10 years or so. So I would say don't be afraid to knock on doors and try to get permission somewhere. If it looks good, go ask. The worst they can do is say no.
All right. Now, for your business, do you have a website, Facebook, Instagram, where people like our listeners can go to and check out? I know you have an Instagram for yourself, but, do you have a website or Instagram for your business only?
So for Dream Dirt, I don't. That's something I'm working on. I actually did a podcast a week ago with a buddy of mine. He's built some websites, and we're going to get one up and running for Dream Dirt. So right now, I've just ran everything through Instagram. So okay. Dream Dirt is both my personal and obviously business side there for Dream Dirt. But also Shed Season. We have a Shed Season Instagram page and website and Facebook and all that. So Shed Season, we started as kind of a place to share and consume shed hunting related content, and it's just organically grown the last few years to where we have and design and sell apparel and still do a lot community wise as far as sharing stuff, and we host giveaways and all that. So it's pretty fun. If you at all like or enjoy shed hunting, check out Shed Season for sure.
This is your company of Shed Season?
So TJ is the engineer for Dialed. TJ started Shed Season, and basically from day one, I was the community manager with him, and so that's he and I's thing for yeah.
This thing's been blowing up, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's been crazy this year. Honestly,
I have to point it out. I'm like this page. It's almost at 5,000 followers.
Yeah. Brett, why don't you put it on there for our listeners so they know where to go find it? Their Instagram or something.
Yeah, it's at shed.season. I'll type it in and pop it up here on the screen. But yeah, I can't. Sorry, I'm just a little. I guess you want to say struck in a way.
He's like a kid at a candy store right now. Don't mind Brett. He's a little kid at heart.
Yeah, it's really cool, man. Like the cool thing about Shed Season is it's not really tied to a brand. So there's a lot of, I like to say, like emotional brands within hunting where you're a Matthews guy and you love Matthews. You may not support something if it's Bowtech or PSE or whatever, Hoyt. But Shed Season's not tied to any brand. It's just like I say, it's just a group of people that enjoy getting outside and finding sheds. And whether you're from Utah or Indiana or Michigan or what, everybody seems to send content and want to share it, and we put it out there, and it's just fun. I truly love it.
I think that's another kind of cool way to get your kids more involved. I've seen you do that on your own personal page there, but that would be kind of like my first thought to get my kids involved. Like, oh, let's go check out these sheds and just get them outside and enjoy it, and be like, oh, look at these cool sheds. And then like, all right, you know what these came from? These came from living deer. Now we can hunt them in the fall. It's just kind of like, I guess, a Kickstarter in a sense.
No, you're exactly right. And like, that's been my daughter and I's thing. So my daughter's the 10-year-old, and I would say from the time she was about 5, that was just kind of her and I thing. That was a way to spend time together. Is if I was going shed hunting and asked her to go, she'd go every single time. And still to this day, like, one of the first times that we went this year, I didn't really have a lot of hope in the spot we went. I found a cover crop field, got permission to walk it. And it was really early. Like I said, I thought we might find one or something. And we go in there and we get 30 yards off the road. And this is on my Instagram. I made a reel of it. We get 30 yards off the road. And I'm like, oh my gosh, Addie, look at that shed. And it's the biggest shed I've ever found, almost an 80-incher. And so I send her up there and she picks it up and she's like, oh my gosh, it's so heavy. And it is a stud.
I just watched that before we started the show today.
We ended up finding 6 sheds there in less than an hour. And just like, I couldn't believe it, neither could she, but we had such a blast. Like, if you have kids, get out there and try to find sheds. Like, it is such a good time. This time of year, you've been cooped up all winter, get a nice day, go, and it's a blast.
Right. And I think that we were talking about earlier about asking for permission, and I feel like, and this is my opinion talking and hearing other people talk about, trying to go and ask them permission to go hunt there. They might be timid to go ask them, they may be a little shy. I've always brought up the idea of like, well, why don't you ask them kind of around this time, March, April, whatever. Go ask them, hey, can I go out there and shed hunt and just look for antlers and just try and build up that rapport? It's not like you're out there hunting or trespassing in any way. You're just out there just looking for sheds. And it's a good way to build rapport with them and just kind of go off from there. I think that's kind of like what I've mentioned to people. If you're too scared to go ask them to hunt right away, because everyone nowadays, in my opinion, is like, nope, I don't. No one's hunting on my property. It's kind of that good icebreaker in a sense.
Yeah.
I couldn't agree more. Yeah, it's actually led to a lot of opportunity for us over the years as you start shed hunting a farm. And like to go one step further with that, I would even suggest a lot of times we do this still is if you ask somebody for the first time to shed hunt, don't use the word hunt. Like I'll knock on the guy, gal's, farmer's door and just say, hey, would you mind if we go out and look for deer antlers? Well, I suppose that, like usually even here, still to this day, like almost never does somebody tell you no about looking for sheds. In fact, more and more all the time, you knock on a farmer's door and ask if you can go look for deer antlers, and they're gonna be like, "Go find them all. I'd rather you find them than run them over with the tractor." So please, by all means. So yeah, that's a very good point.
Well, I know, like in Michigan, where we're from, there's a lot of public lands, and it's so hard. Me and Brett, we could go walking it all day long, but you don't know who's out there. You don't just, doing whatever. And it's very hard for us to plot sometimes. Sometimes they don't allow us. I mean, on private land, it might be a little bit better, but I mean, it's sad enough to say, I don't know how it is in Indiana, but a lot of these private lands are just going away or they're being sold to these corporations, and it's sad. It feels like hunting's kind of disappearing.
Yeah, it's getting to be tough between ground getting chewed up, like you say, by big companies and stuff, or just the amount of leasing going on where, it's especially for deer anymore around here, it's almost impossible to get permission. There's guys willing to pay a lot of money to lease farms that come from the bigger cities and stuff like that. But so far, when it comes to sheds anyway, we've had pretty good luck still. I mean, I could count on one hand probably in the last 5 years that I've been told no on walking a property for sheds. But again, like trying to be selective as far as when I go. We can't just go every day. Yeah. I'm just gonna say, like, I'm probably not gonna just go randomly walk public ground. Yeah. Usually when we shed hunt, I'm shed hunting a farm that I've targeted for some reason. Like we've driven by there a few evenings, the last week, and I've noticed the farmer left 5 acres of beans standing and there's 60 deer in the beans every night. Like that's a spot I'm going to shed hunt. Or this spot where my daughter and I found 6 sheds. There was probably 160 acre field that they planted to cover crop. So it was radishes and turnips and stuff like that. And we drove over there in the evenings a few times and it was loaded. Like I knew at some point there'd be sheds. Just when she and I went, it was like the first week of February and it had been so warm here. I didn't expect to find much, but typically I'm going to literally scout out places to shed hunt just because I can't go every day. If I go, I want to find sheds.
Well, I know at Whitetail Advantage, Brett's going to agree with me. Eventually, after, the more and more we do these podcasts going live, we're eventually going to do live hunts and live plotting and all that. And I know at Whitetail Advantage, we'd like to invite you and your company and your partner to come on out and join us in those, going through so we can show your viewers, how the process works, what you guys are looking at, how you guys doing it, and what the progress from the time of before the plot was done to the end of the plot and the biggest progress of all.
Yeah, no, I'd love that. That sounds amazing to me. Would definitely be down. I need to do a better job of that stuff anyway. It's always seems to be, a second thought is like the water hole. I did take a couple quick clips on my phone, but it's like you do it and then I'm like, I probably should have done something before and after and maybe shown this a little bit, but
there's always that one moment where you're, man, where was the camera? Crap.
That's exactly right. Somebody probably would have liked to have seen this, but we'll do it next time. So.
I mean, technically with you running and getting that big buck, you should have had a camera on you.
100%. No doubt about it. Should have wore a GoPro or something.
Yeah. I don't know. I might get sick watching you run.
Right. That's true. Absolutely. So.
I did it. You kind of briefed on it before of where you're looking at for these sheds, but if you're not seeing these, where are you typically going to go find these sheds? Like what's your all right, this is my property, or you're just looking at a blank piece of property. It's like, all right, I want to go look at this specific area. Are you looking more for a bedding area, a food source? What's your go-to preference of starting to look for sheds?
Yep. So like I always, even starting shed hunting for some reason, just have always navigated to edge. So whitetails, like most animals, are creatures of edge. And what I mean by that is, so I'm normally going to target a food source, but I'm going to target where that woods meets this food source. So, or fence row or grass strip or, waterway, whatever that might be. So I'll target a food source. I'll find a cover crop field, but you're not going to just go willy-nilly walk the whole field. Normally what I'll do is walk the edge of the woods where that field meets the woods. Or if there's, like I said, if there's a grass waterway or grass strips in it, anywhere there's edge cover, that is where I've found, I would say 90% of my sheds over the years has always been on edge.
Because I've been looking out there and I can't find squat.
Right.
Not gonna lie. I've looked in bedding areas, I looked in open food sources, and I've checked the edges, and just I don't know what it is about my property, but I think we found 2 sheds in the 16 years we've been out there, and I don't know.
I mean, it can be frustrating at times. My home farm here, we supplemental feed in the off season. As soon as I had killed my deer this year, actually, nobody else is hunting here. I knew we were done. We instantly started feeding, and I was trying to, that 4-year-old that I called Thor, I was really trying to see if he was alive. And I knew if I put big time out, he would hit it if he was, and he didn't. But running feed all winter helps usually with sheds a lot. This winter was so warm, though, they weren't forced to hit any food source, hard. Like if it were 10 below zero for 3 weeks straight, they would hit this feed 3 times a day and they'd be bedding 100 yards from it. We didn't have that this year. It was 50 degrees, and they might come one day and not again for 6 days. And so last year we found 9 sheds on my home farm here. This year we found 2. But yeah, sometimes you just have that. Like, there's also areas where deer just don't winter because the habitat isn't suitable, or there's something really good close, and it's hard to find sheds when there's not sheds there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Brett, what we forgot to do? He introduced himself. He told a little bit about him. We never told him about us, who we are.
We should probably do that. That's right.
Why don't we start with you, Brett? What do you do?
Well, let's see here. How do I start?
We already know you're Superman by nighttime.
I'm Batman.
Right.
Oh, man. Now you come put me on the spot. I don't know where to go, man. Well, yeah, I don't really know. Let's see here. I've been hunting now this will probably be my 17th year hunting on my piece of private property that I can hunt. I have access to. There was a good stretch where I just couldn't see a deer for like 2 years, and I just got so tired of it. My dad took me out hunting, and he's like, all right, I got a good spot. We'll put you out here hunting. And I got my first deer out there. And then after that, I'd start getting some other deer and miss. Anyways, long story short, I got to a point where it's like, man, 3 years, I just kept going out there and I couldn't see anything. And I was like, maybe 16 years old at the time. I was like, there's got to be more out there. So I started looking around the property more, started doing this is when I really got into winter tracking. And I advocate that as if you can go out there and you can track in the wintertime when the season's over, you're going to learn your property. You're going to learn how your deer are moving. Heck, I got to the point where I was tracking myself on my Onyx and just going back and looking through like, all right, where was I at? Why are they moving through there? And just following them on their tracks. And eventually I just kind of figured out a point of where I know where more of the bedding areas are at. I've learned the land a lot better. I learned how the deer are moving. And eventually it led up to me getting up to my biggest deer, which was about 145 inches. I got him a couple years ago. I was very proud of, and yeah, ever since then, I've just kind of been chasing that 200, but that's my own private goal, I guess, in a way. It's like, that's how I measure my own success. Is I just want to get better each time. But at the end of the day, as long as I got meat in my freezer, then that's me.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. I love it.
And now I got my 4-year-old daughter. Well, yeah, she'll be 4 in November. Yep. got her. I got my son gonna be turning 1 this year, and I can't wait to get them out there as soon as I can. But like you, Dwayne, I'm not gonna push it on them. I'm gonna like kind of gradually take them out there. And I've talked about this on other podcasts. I mean, I don't want to talk about myself too much here, but I told my wife this when we had kids. I want them to get into sports because I was a huge sports guy. I want them to get into hunting, and I'm going to make sure that they are the best at it, no matter what they can do. But she said, "Well, what if they don't want to get into hunting? What if they don't want to get into sports? What if they want to be a musician or a gymnast?" I said, "I'm going to tell them every step of the way. I love you. I'm proud of you. You make a mistake, I'm still going to be behind you. But if you want to go do something else, and it's not what I want, in a sense of in this world, you better go give it your dang best of 110%, and I'll be back you no matter what." So that's kind of what I've told my wife, and my daughter, she's got me wrapped around her fingers. So,
Oh yeah,
Oh yeah, she
I
does.
have a way of doing that.
yeah,
Oh yeah, she does.
yeah.
Nothing wrong with that.
Wow. So I've been hunting since I was 9 years old with my grandparents or my grandpa, Coles. And I gave up a cabin up in the Baldwin with 80 acres. And I just recently, 4 years ago, sold 50 acres of land. I know, it was bad. Never been in bow. Starting to slowly get into it, but my career, two of my careers took off, and I kind of took over my hunting, and hoping that my career will slow down and I can focus more on hunting, but it's not really going to slow down anytime soon. I got three boys. I don't even have a daughter, so I don't know about that wrap around the finger because I ain't.
Right.
But I got 3 boys. I mean, my oldest boy, he's interested in it. My youngest boy, he's like, whatever. And my newest son that I have, I don't even know if I want to put a gun in his hand. He might just start chasing him. I don't know.
Right.
But my plan is I bought a house with 2.5 acres, but I got 685 acres behind me, just nothing but open fields.
Oh,
So
wow.
Where I lived was nothing but woods. I did the same thing, Dwayne. I was out there plotting, I had creeks that would run from the pond. We had a homemade pond, and they were, we had gullies, so they loved to run in that gullies. And my family, which was my grandpa, he owned another 100 acres that butted up against mine. So I had pretty much 150 acres to hunt, plus I had farming out of those 50 acres. So it helped out a lot. But I see where your point is, I had a backfield, and people would sneak on it all the time. And it's just like, wow, why take the pressure off?
Yep.
But, it's hard. It's me getting back into it. My kids are asking me, but hopefully my career slows down. Brett knows about it. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Trust me, I know about that.
yeah.
Oh, yeah. No, it will eventually, especially like you say, the kids get to where they're asking you to go, and it changes things a little bit too. So,
well, I got one that's old enough that wants a truck, and he's like, "Dad, can I drive your truck?" No,
right.
no, because I have too much money into this truck. But it's your truck, correct? It's my truck. We're gonna rephrase that. It's my truck.
Yep.
So, but no, I mean, Dwayne, I appreciate what I and Brett and Whitetail Advantage. We appreciate you taking the time away from your family, and I know family's big with you, and your business is big, and we really appreciate you taking the time for our audience and coming on and talking about it. I mean, we got more questions, but we just want to throw that out, man. We really appreciate you guys and our audience, taking the time to watch us, and we hope to sit around a fire and crack a beer with you. And I'm going to have to come to Indiana because I will be in Indiana in April. So I'm going to have to get that Yang Lane beer and bring it back to Michigan.
Right. Oh, yeah. It's good stuff. No, I appreciate you guys having me. I mean, this is what I'm passionate about. Love talking about it. Could talk about it every day. So always happy to be on. But thanks for having me for sure.
So how often so you said gonna touch back a little bit. You said you have a podcast. What kind of podcast is it?
No, I did a podcast.
Oh, you did a podcast.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. $2 podcast. The guy's name is Brian Krebs. Yep. So we were just doing one here. I think it was last week one day. So yeah.
Just for fun and all that stuff.
I don't need to try to dive into podcasting.
Trust me, it's a lot.
Oh, I guarantee it. I always enjoy it, but that's the last thing we need to do right now is try to start one. So
yeah. No, well,
come on here and talk to you guys.
Yeah, I mean, you come on anytime. The Whitetail Advantage is open for you anytime. Hopefully, we can get your partner and your buddy on this, and we'll have to schedule another time when we come back in Indiana and all that stuff. We could reach out to you and say, hey, get your friends, let's talk, and we can hopefully, like I said to our audience and with you, hopefully we can next time have a recording of us out hunting. All of us getting around, awesome. And it's just nice seeing these guys out hunting, and hopefully, we can dream big. Let's see how big it's gonna go.
That's right. Yep.
Indiana is like right in our backyard, basically. If you want to call
it.
I
know. Yeah. I know.
How far are you from the
state line? Buddies that gone down there, Indiana, and man,
So you're talking which city? So we can hit South Bend, Indiana. What is it? About not even 30 minutes.
It's like a 35-minute drive from us.
Yeah. So you're probably only 2.5 from me, something like that.
As long as you got yin laying in that fridge, I'll drive that 2.5 hours.
We can make it happen.
Don't threaten me with a good time.
That's right.
I am curious though, real quick. What is like a hunting law there that's like out of the ordinary? That's like that you wouldn't agree with or anything like that.
I don't.
Or that you would like to see changed, maybe.
So I can't say a hunting law per se. I can say as far as whitetails go that I really wish they would restructure our seasons. It's been, I don't know if Michigan does this or not, but every year after deer season is over, they send out a survey to anybody that purchases a hunting license, and they ask for feedback. And there's a bunch of, answer A, B, C, D questions, but there's also some spots where you can leave comments and stuff. And I know me and 20 of my friends have written in for the last decade about, which, maybe you'll have some different feelings on this, Sean, but moving the firearm season out of the peak of the rut. So our firearm season here starts the second weekend of November.
That sounds like a debate.
It's absolutely miserable. Yeah. And it's also very long. So it's 3 weekends long, and then we go out for a week, and then muzzleloader comes back for I think 3 weekends again. So we have 5 weeks of firearm season, and most of it is in the peak of the rut. And then people wonder, like, man, I don't have any mature deer.
I agree with you. It's terrible. I agree with you, Dwayne. I think I 100% agree. I mean, I may be a gun guy. I'm getting into bow, but I feel like there needs to be equal amounts because there's less time, same as in Michigan. Yeah, it starts out with bow, and then it goes into gun, then it stays gun. It doesn't kind of go back. I mean, it's combination, but you need to have an equal part, more of your – because you have people that with bow hunting, it's like an art. You're out there tracking. You got to – once you shoot them, you got to track them, and you got to follow them. You got to do it. Where a buck, deer, and you have a gun, you're just dropping them. Hopefully you hit them. If you don't, you're not tracking them. You just like, oh, okay, whatever. And then they go off and die. And then that just – what if that was that buck you were watching, that person shot, missed it, and then now it dead on your property? Now it's your job or that private person's got to take care of it. But I 100% agree with you, Dwayne, on that.
Yeah, I'm not against firearms hunting. And my whole thing is, if we want to have a healthy deer herd and we want to have mature deer and we want to draw in non-residents and this to be a destination state that people want to come whitetail hunt, like there has to be opportunity in mature deer, and the only way to get more of those is to kill less of them. And so you just have such an advantage with a gun, and then to stack the odds even more to put it in the peak of the rut when deer are at their most defenseless. It just doesn't make any sense. Like, I don't care if we have 5 weeks of gun season, but put it in December. Yeah. It could still be great. You have Go ahead.
No, I'm sorry to cut you off, Dwayne.
No, you're good.
No, I was just saying, I agree. Our gun season starts November 15th, And I've talked to my
Same.
wife, like, yeah, rut's basically just kicking off at that point. She's like, well, that's no fair to you. You can still you can bow hunt during the gun season, but where I hunt, it's just everyone out there, bam. You can't move 2 inches without seeing another hunter out there. And it's like,
Oh,
sucks.
yeah. That's
And
how it is
then
too.
it's like, I basically say, you know what? Let's make the whole month of December gun season because I don't care at that point.
Mm-hmm.
I'm with you.
Well, it lets them get a little bit bigger too. I mean, that plotting takes time and patience, like you said. So,
and I don't care what any gun hunter says out there, and we speak the truth here on Whitetail Advantage. If it's November 15th and it's like, oh, it's going to make it easier for you or me. No, it makes it 10 times harder for a guy with a bow than it is with you with a gun. And it's like, well, you're taking away our rut season. No, it's going to make it 10 times harder for me because I have to go in these woods and try and corral them into this small little spot. And out in the field, you can probably get them to stop 300 yards away. I can't. They're moving so quickly in front of you. There's no freaking chance.
Yeah. Well, at the end of the day, we should all want the same thing. You know, like I know for me, I want to see more deer and I want to have more encounters with big deer, mature deer. The way to do that in my mind is let's kill less deer. I mean,
is your state a 2-buck state?
No, thankfully, no. It was when I was younger. I would say probably early 2000s, 2004, they went to 1 buck, which has helped a lot. I can't imagine if it was still $2 now with hunter numbers where they are, but yeah, one buck state. Like I said, the biggest issue is, which this is a whole nother rabbit hole. I don't even want to go down the crossbow one, but allowing crossbows in and then rifle season being all through the peak of the rut and being so long.
And I'm sorry, I'm gonna hear it, but how long has that been? The 1 buck rule been in place? Has that been a long time?
Probably 20 years, I would say.
Oh, I misunderstood then. But yeah, here in Michigan, a lot of people are now pushing for that 1 buck rule, and because here in Michigan, the saying goes, if it's brown, it's down.
Yeah.
And have you seen a lot of with that 1 buck rule of more mature bucks around, so you have more opportunity at these bigger mature bucks?
Yeah, definitely. Because I think, like I said, I was in my teens when it was $2. I had just started getting into it, but back then it seemed like the mindset was the first one they'd shoot whatever. It didn't matter what it was. If it had an antler, they're shooting it, and then they might be a little more selective on their second one because they already got one. So I mean, just so many more bucks getting shot. Whereas now, if you can only kill one and you care at all about age structure or anything like that, you may not shoot the first 2-year-old you see. You might wait.
Yeah.
So, it's helped a lot.
That's what the saying, well, I don't want to say saying, but the narrative here in Michigan I've been hearing a lot is a lot of people have been trying to push now for that 1 buck rule because here in Michigan, it's just so heavily pressured to hunt here, and you can't get a deer past 2.5 years old. My deer, I think, was maybe 3.5, and everyone's like, well, no, it's probably 4. No, I highly doubt it. Yeah. You see a deer get to 4 years old here in Michigan, in my opinion, that's just almost a unicorn.
Yeah, which it's sad. I mean, I would love to see Michigan go to 1 buck too. It'd make a huge difference. But like for me to drive up there, the southern hour of Michigan looks better than where I live, even like habitat wise. You guys have a pretty awesome mix of hardwoods and pines, and there's in a lot of areas there's a 50-50 mix of cover and fields, and like it's gorgeous, but there's just an insane amount of pressure.
I think we talked to our buddy Jake last week, and he's out of Illinois, and basically there's I can't remember exactly numbers, but here in Michigan there was like 100,000 to their 10,000 of people that hunt there. Basically, obviously the numbers aren't right, but you have to go listen to the episode.
Yeah, I think Michigan has something like 400,000 hunters.
Yeah, I just can't.
It's something unreal. Yeah.
Well, most of them are up in the UP because it's so wooded, and in Baldwin area, it's like heavily wooded. There's and the more south you go, the more cities you have, and like I said, hunting's down south is starting to die out, and it's sad.
Yeah, it is.
So,
well, Dwayne, getting ready to wrap up for tonight's show. Was there a story, a topic that we didn't cover that you would like to kind of dive into?
And I don't think so. I think we touched on a pretty good mix of it. May have to get back on here at some point, but I appreciate you guys having me a bunch. It was awesome.
We appreciate it, Dwayne. And again,
of course,
we look forward to hopefully hunting with you. Hopefully, getting you back on a Whitetail Advantage. Again, guys, our audience, check him out. Shed season, everything. Perfect guy, awesome topics. Check out his product.
Appreciate that.
Dwayne, besides the your 2 Instagram pages, was there any way else anybody can get in contact with you?
The Instagram is going to be the best way. I'm on there quite a bit. I run our shed season page, so whether it's Dreamed or shed season, either one, if you shoot me a message on there, that's going to be about the best way for sure.
All right, we'll make sure to pop those up here too. But hey, okay. Dwayne, thanks again for coming on the show. We really appreciate it. And yeah, next time we gotta get you back on the show, brother.
Yeah, let's do it. Thanks again, guys. I appreciate it.
Have a good night, man.
Yep. See you, fellas.
Wow. I'm just
pop up his stuff right there.
Yeah.
Here's shed season.
Yep. I mean, just wow. That guy is starting off with motocross, never hunted when he was a kid, and then just found the passion for it. And he's achieved so much at the age of 36. I mean, just wow.
Just a down to earth guy and someone who really prioritizes family time into his hunting world and make sure I wouldn't say schedules family time, but you know what I mean.
He finds that time.
He makes that time. He finds that a priority in his life.
Yeah.
But man, that was a great show to start off in Indiana.
Like I said to the audience, you guys, we appreciate being the host and all that stuff. And, we would love to hear the comments from our audience. If we don't have anything from you guys, we can't make a show. And without you guys, we wouldn't have a show. So again, Brad, I guarantee you 100% agree. Everybody who comes, it's something new. We're learning something new, and hopefully our audience is getting everything that they can out of this.
Yeah, I think when we started this of traveling state to state, in my opinion, no other kind of show out there is doing it, and we're grasping a lot of how things are doing differently in different states. And in my opinion, you're learning what it's like to actually hunt out there if you want to go out there and hunt. 2, you're learning what it's like to hunt. And for instance, we had Troy Pottinger on a couple of weeks ago.
Right.
Learn what it's like to hunt out there and see how you can apply that to your own hunting world. And I'm having a freaking blast with this. People might say like, oh, how are you not getting burnt out? There is not a time I'm getting burnt out. I'm loving every second of this, dude. And I mean, heck, and here in two episodes, well, this is episode 48. 2 more episodes, we're having episode 50.
Wow.
We're quadrupling the number of podcast episodes out there. So, yeah. I mean, we can touch on that on the next episode because I kind of want to, but I'm having a lot of fun with this, Sean.
Yeah. Well, Brett, it's that time, man.
Yes. Let's
say goodnight to our audience.
Let's say this real quick. If you ever want to come on the show and be a guest and represent your own state, message us on our own social media platforms, or you can text me at 269-993-3653. Other than that, Sean, what was that again? We'll catch up at the next electronic campfire.
Yeah.
I like that.
What a yang like.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Whitetail Advantage Podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show, and we will see you next time.